that I never thought I would see. But in this day and age, I have to say, activists and organizers, you are definitely pushing things up. And I have to give you a good salute, because I hope many of these protesters and organizers and any of these groups that are right now currently protesting what's happening in Gaza are made fully aware that the Democratic Party, just like the Republican Party, doesn't care about its voters, doesn't care about its constituents, doesn't care for the fact of what it's helping contribute, not only here in our country, but worldwide. And what we have covered, Due Dissidence has covered, INN has covered, RBN has covered, The Jimmy Dore Show has covered, and so many other people across the political spectrum in independent media who are not afraid to be silenced, who are not afraid to be censored. We're acknowledging the fact that, hey, look, there is a crisis happening in Gaza. And as I have feared, and I think as many of us have feared, but we all knew was coming, military operations and IDF strikes are happening in Rafah. And right now, we're seeing organizers confront our politicians. Now, this happened in the home of a politician where he was having a little get-together. So shout out to Jose Vega, good friend of the show, for Colorado Congressional District 7, confronted congressional representative Jose Neguse, in which people, not one, but three activists were saying, please call for a ceasefire, do something to stop it. So let's go ahead and play this video. It's incredible. And this is in his own home, too, by the way. So the ability to sneak inside there just like that is incredible. But notice, again, the age of the audience, but also what they're going to be telling the activists and organizers to do. And that is to shut up, shut up, shut up.
And I started... I am here as your constituent, and I'm so glad you are home, because I'm here with Jewish Voices for Peace, and we are here to ask you today for call for a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire in Gaza. As you know, 34,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel with our funds.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm happy to talk with you after the event. I'll spend some time to visit with you.
You are breaking U.S. law by sending weapons to Israel.
Talk to him later.
I'm happy to talk to you at the conclusion.
You are breaking section.
It's okay.
Thank you.
All right. The most significant infrastructure.
Isn't that crazy? We're all for free speech until it is an inconvenience to us. The camera will pan out and show you the full audience very soon.
Legislation enacted since the days of Dwight Eisenhower.
Elect those two senators, and you are wrong. The young people are not with you. Look at this room. You know what the young people are worried about? Is when our Democrats going to stop funding the killing and starvation of children. When our Democrats going to stop funding the killing and starvation of children. When our Democrats going to stop.
Gotta love how that lady said, where are the young people? Look at this room. One more time. I know I said I wouldn't pause, and I know I'm sorry, but this video is pure freaking gold.
To Israel.
Talk to him later.
I'm happy to talk to you at the conclusion.
You are breaking section.
It's okay.
Thank you.
All right. The most significant infrastructure legislation enacted since the days of Dwight Eisenhower.
Elect those two senators, and you are wrong. The young people are not with you. Look at this room. You know what the young people are worried about? Is when our Democrats going to stop funding the killing and starvation of children. When our Democrats going to stop funding the killing and starvation of children. When our Democrats going to stop killing.
All right. That's okay. It's all right. I'll keep it brief. Unless anybody else is planning.
I'm going to go up because you are complicit in genocide. 15,000 children dead. We are all complicit because our tax dollars are funding this genocide. We cannot allow this. Shame on all of you. Shame on the Democrats. You think you're better than everybody. You're killers.
Now that is what you call giving a middle finger to the DNC and to all these jagoff latte drinking, mimosa sipping, bagel eating liberals. The people who talk down at you in 2020. Remember those people? And yes, I'm going to use those words for those liberals who talk down to us or bullied us or use their power to say, if you don't support Biden, oh, you're a bad person. Well, tell me, vote blue no matter who. What's it like eating crow? I'm going to play that video again just right after I read this article because, and I will not pause. I know I said I wouldn't pause. I apologize. But goddamn, that video was pure gold. Pure gold for the simple fact of, look at that room. There was a whole lot of old mayonnaise in there, okay? And I love the second woman who stood up and said, I supported and helped elect those 2 Georgia senators, and that didn't work out the way it was supposed to work out. She was correct. And to all of these people, to the Democrats, to the people who are waking up to the fact of what the DNC truly is, we welcome you. Thank you. And I understand why a lot of people voted for Biden in 2020. I get it. Trump. Boogie, boogie, boogie. But here's something that'll keep you up at night, okay? There are far more vile, evil people than Donald Trump in this world, okay? At least Trump, he's up front with his BS. You know what you're getting. These other politicians put on this mask and pretend that they care when they really don't. Now, why do you think those 3 ladies, those brave women, stepped up and decided to confront Congressman Joe Neguse of Colorado? Well, IDF strikes Rafah after Hamas agrees to a ceasefire. What? That's right. You heard it. There's a ceasefire. Ceasefire happened, and again, they agreed to it. Why, asks Israeli lawmaker? Because killing Palestinians is more important for the Israeli government than saving Israelis. By the way, I remember when a lot of people were very, very adamant in saying that we got to save the hostages. Saving the hostages is fundamentally important. So Israel on Monday launched long-awaited strikes on Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip, despite Hamas publicly confirming it agreed to a ceasefire and hostage release proposal from Egyptian and Qatari mediators. So, in other words, those 2 officials from Egypt and Qatari, the Egyptian and Qatari mediators, they just wasted their time because the IDF was always going to jump on in. The Israeli Defense Forces said on social media that the IDF is currently conducting targeted strikes against Hamas terror targets in eastern Rafah, the city to which over 1 million Palestinians have fled since October 7th, when Israel launched a retaliatory war that has already killed at least 34,735 people. Folks, that number is going to be going up and up and up and up. Hell, that number is probably a lot higher than we want to admit. As it stands, early Monday, the IDF had dropped leaflets directing residents and refugees in that part of Rafah to relocate to a strip along Gaza's coast, ignoring warnings from the international community and humanitarian groups that a full-scale Israeli attack on the crowded city would further endanger civilians and relief efforts. Listen, if 112 journalists got shot there already, and if aid workers, especially from the World Central Kitchen, are going to be targeted, ain't nobody safe. The IDF is going to be targeting everyone and everything. Bassem Youssef is absolutely correct. He is absolutely correct in his statement. Israel's going to get away with this. And how powerful is Israel? Well, as a nation, we have to remember that our money is going to Israel. We are funding their war effort. We're keeping them afloat. And they are protected by us because, in turn, they were smart enough to buy our politicians. And, of course, our Supreme Court was oh so happy to make sure that Citizens United and McCutcheon decision would be able to become the law of the land. We have legalized bribery in this country, and AIPAC has bought many of our Democratic and Republican officials, be it at the state level and at the federal level. In addition to sparking outrage around the world, the Israeli government's Rafah attack and rejection of a Hamas-backed proposal was met with criticism from people across Israel. The Associated Press reported that thousands of Israelis rallied around the country Monday night, calling for an immediate deal to release the hostages still held in the Gaza Strip. I don't want to sound like the bad guy here, but I don't think those hostages are going to get freed. I'm so sorry. And it's I want to pause here for a second and pull up here this one video That's a blast in the past. But before we play this video, when this war started, it seemed like the perfect point for Netanyahu to have his wag the dog moment. He already had a lot of domestic and social issues impacting his government. And when October 7th came around, it was the perfect distraction. For 6 months, he has been more or less running the whole show. And we have covered on this show, as have other independent media networks have covered on their shows respectively, that Netanyahu is going to continue on conducting this war the way he sees fit, despite the fact that the Biden-Harris administration gave a very, very strong worded statement saying that they're against it. Do you think Netanyahu cares what the president of the United States says? Do you think Netanyahu cares what the ICC says? Do you think Netanyahu cares what NATO or the United Nations or the European Union or anybody says? No, he don't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And now a city home to 1.5 million refugees is now being deliberately targeted by the IDF. One more time for all the people to see, because we need to confront all these politicians. Shout out to Jose Vega, who helped lead the way. But this goes for all politicians, Democrat and Republican.
And I started.
I am here as your constituent. I'm so glad you are home because I'm here with Jewish Voices for Peace. And we are here to ask you today for call for a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire in Gaza. As you know, 34,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel with our funds
No, it's
and
okay. It's
our
okay.
women.
It's okay. I'm happy to talk with you after the event. I'll spend some time to
You
visit
are
with
breaking
you.
U.S. law by sending
Yes,
weapons to Israel.
Talk to him later.
I'm happy to talk to you at the conclusion.
You are breaking section.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
All right.
01.
The most significant infrastructure legislation enacted since the days of Dwight Eisenhower.
Elect those two senators, and you are wrong. The young people are not with you. Look at this room. You know what the young people are worried about is when are Democrats going to stop funding the killing and starving of our children? When are Democrats going to stop funding the killing and starving of our children? When are Democrats going to stop the killing?
All right. That's okay. It's all right. It's all right. I'll keep it brief. Unless anybody else is planning.
I'm going to go up because you are complicit in genocide. 15,000 children dead. We are all complicit because our tax dollars are funding this genocide. We cannot allow this. Shame on all of you. Shame on the Democrats. You think you're better than everybody. You're killers.
Courage must be the watchword. Courage must be the watchword to stand up to these politicians. And unfortunately, many of our fellow Americans are still hypnotized in voting Team Red and Team Blue. What those three women did was brave. It set the standard for all of us to follow. Now the city of Rafah is being attacked. And when we look to our leaders, do you want to know where we find them? They're counting their dollars. They're just rubbing their hands together, wondering what lies in store for them next year and the year after that so they can get more and more profit. These politicians claim to care about our republic, claim to care about the people, but they don't. They never did, and they never will. For too long, we, the American people, have sat idly by, assuming that the system is fine, and we left it alone because we assumed that the people in charge were okay. That they knew what they were doing, that they were professionals, and that they had everything on point, and we left them alone. We assumed too much. This is what happens when a population has a hands-off approach to a government. We also must take blame for this, because if we do want to build a better future, then we have to start setting a standard of accountability towards our quote-unquote elected officials, for they are not the knights on the hill. We are. And if we want to set an example to the rest of the world, we have to show the rest of the world that we do not approve of this. We do not approve of our leaders. We don't approve of their corruption, their bribery, their evil vindictiveness. We don't approve of it. Courage must be the watchword. Because if we need to fight back, we have to have the courage to fight back against these politicians and confront them and call them out. And yes, even elect them out. But the fight doesn't end there. citizen ballot initiatives, worker co-ops, supporting independents, third parties, and yes, more citizen journalists, more people stepping up. A long time ago, I called for it. And I still call for it to this day. Let us not back down. And let's have courage.